Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. Shout out to everyone out there. Hope everyone's had a wonderful 3-day weekend over the past few. It is Monday, November 4th, 2024, day before Election Day. Get out and vote. I don't have a preference of who I vote. I don't put it out there. Whoever you vote, your opinion. I don't partake in personal vendettas because everyone has a differentiating opinion. And if you have a problem with somebody voting against your beliefs, you are a coward. That's what I have to say about that. Windy day here in Cincinnati. Winds picked up in the 70s. My window screens were blowing out earlier, but they turned out to be okay. But I'm here today. You get a good show going underway. Hope everyone out there has had themselves a wonderful day. Happy Victory Monday to those who celebrate, especially here in Cincinnati. Going to get to you guys here in a second. Be remiss before I start, I would talk about loss in the entertainment industry today. It was the loss of, one of the real pioneers of our time, Quincy Jones. Did work with guys like Frank Sinatra and Ray Charles. Introduced us to a phenom named Michael Jackson. Of course, the Thriller album with some of the premier hits. Key piece who put together the primetime hit in 1985, "We Are the World," for what was going on in Africa at the time. An all-star celebration of some of the premier entertainers and musicians of that era. I mean, it's a who's who. If you guys can go on the YouTube or the Rumble channels, go ahead and search it. It's absolutely sensational. Uh, a tough loss for the entertainment industry. Quincy Jones, 28 Emmy Awards for various categories, 80 nominations, a pioneer and an icon like none other. Thank you for your time, Quincy Jones. Your legacy will never be forgotten. May God rest his soul. Now then, to get to the topics in hand, got some new followers out there. Just to reiterate what I do, I'm now live on the Rumble platform. For those of you follow me on Rumble, which not many right now, I'm hoping to grow there. I'm streaming live as well as the current ones I do, especially the primary one here, the X platform, thanks to the character called Elon Musk. So the character continues to try and make this X platform more of a opportunity for someone like myself to expand to something I've always wanted to do for the longest time. Just we never had this back in the days. It was the typical mail out the resume to the local radio stations, where in Cincinnati they're just hot trash, and you get the rejection letter in the mail. But that's a different story for another day. I do all kinds of sports. Of course, boxing is my specialty. I learned how to get fixated with sports like the NFL, the NBA, even some soccer and baseball. List goes on and on. I have a full show today. I have many shows this week. I will elaborate on them later. Now let's get down to it. Uh, Always is after NFL Sunday. I'd like to discuss the Sunday games that took place on the day after. Again, all the winning teams. Happy Victory Monday. I'm going to start with the one here in Cincinnati. Um, we talk about the premier edge rushers in the game, like Aiden Hutchinson before his injury. Of course, the Raiders had one in Max Crosby. Of course, the gold standard right now is T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. Add Trey Hendrickson to the mix. 4 sacks yesterday. I mean, he could have really had 7 or 8 the way he was absolutely destroying Gardner Minshew and Desmond Ritter and whoever the starting left tackle was. I think there was White Shirt. I can't think of his name. But he basically owned, and I mean flat owned, the left tackle and was a man amongst boys yesterday. 4 sacks, a forced fumble. Logan Wilson had 2 fumble recoveries. Chase Brown, who should have been the number 1 starter all along here in Cincinnati, that everybody blatantly ignores. 120 yards on about 4 yards of carry, had a touchdown reception. Mike Gesicki had his breakout game here in Cincinnati, 2 touchdowns over 100 yards. If you have a Brown and Gesicki in your fantasy ownership, congratulations, job well done. They did the heavy lifting along with Hendrickson on the defensive side. And for the Raiders, I guess they started the house cleaning. Basically, every major offensive coordinator, offensive coach on that side decided to get the pink slip today. So, but they are the Raiders for a reason. That's why they've been a laughing stock since the early '90s. They were gift wrapped a Super Bowl appearance in 2002. Got dog walked by Tampa Bay because of how they did John Gruden dirty. Of course, John Gruden, was fired, was traded for compensation, came back and got his payback on the Raiders to win Tampa's Super Bowl. and they've been a laughing stock ever since. And that's why they're still the Raiders. That's why they should have never left Oakland for Vegas. But what can you do? Mark Davis is every bit the let's just say drama queen character his late father Al Davis was in his late years. But that's why they're the Raiders. Good win by Cincinnati. Big Thursday till Tuesday against Baltimore. I'll get to that here later. Speaking of Baltimore, job well done. I mean, the vision they had with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry playing out. Kyle Van Noy and Adolfo Owe solid on the defensive side. Handled the Broncos. But I gotta say, poor Marcus Williams, has been the brunt of a lot of things in Baltimore recent years. Basically, he's now on the brunt of this for all the wrong reasons. I mean, he got mossed by Bo Nix. Really, he got mossed by Bo Nix on a touchdown perception where Nix was basically jumped high over Williams to get the ball and just take it into the end zone. But even then, it seemed like the Ravens defense started playing a little better last couple weeks. They still give up a lot of big plays for a defense that's supposed to be one of the better ones, especially personnel wise. And they're having to rely on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry to carry a lot of the load right now. But you know, Baltimore has the potential to be a juggernaut in the NFL offensively. I mean, they have it with their receiver Zay Flowers. They get Deontay Johnson. I mean, he didn't do anything yesterday, but he's just new. You have Rashad Bateman on the other side, and I said the two tight ends instead of Likely and Andrews, excuse me. But they got the job done at home. The big game against Cincinnati in Baltimore this Thursday. I'll preview that here in a little bit because I think this is good. Both teams are trending upward. It was Atlanta over Dallas yesterday, and this is living proof where I thought the hiring of Mike McCarthy a couple years ago was just a bad decision for the Cowboys. But what do you expect? It's Jerry Jones. And of course, Jerry Jones wants to talk about going all in. He decides to pass on Derrick Henry to bring back the corpse of Zeke Elliott. And now they were putting him on a healthy scratch yesterday and talking about, I guess, releasing Zeke Elliott, who basically doesn't belong on an NFL roster anymore. Now, of course, Cowboys fans, for the upteenth time, want to slander Jerry Jones. Mind you, Jerry Jones no longer cares. This is the same guy who back in 1994 fired Jimmy Johnson after going back-to-back. It was about to be a great Dallas dynasty, largely because Jimmy Johnson got all the credit and Jerry Jones was jealous of it. And Jerry Jones decided to can him because of it. Basically, he got his Super Bowls. He no longer cares what anyone says. He continues to try to put himself out there to say that he cares and he holds the team accountable when he really doesn't. I mean, it's been that way for over 3 decades. Since he fired Jimmy Johnson, his true colors came out, and they continue to come out more and more every day. Of course, he tried to bring back Bill Parcells in the mid 2000s, ran him out because he didn't let Bill Parcells do his job, even though Parcells tries to defend Jerry Jones, but that's who Bill Parcells is. But since he fired Jimmy Johnson in 1994, Jerry Jones quit giving a damn about a winning product. He can make all the states he wants. You can say anything he wants. All you guys in Dallas can make all the complaints you want about Jerry Jones, but he no longer cares. He got us 2 Super Bowls. He did his job when he fired Jimmy Johnson, and that was it. And he no longer cares. This year was basically living proof. Now, whether he wants to step down or not, that's on to him. But back to the game, Bijan Robinson, 145 total yards. If you have him on your fantasy team, kudos. Kirk Cousins, 3 touchdowns. Of course, the $60 million quarterback in Dallas, of course, basically was kind of on hot mic saying we suck. I'm not going to use the exact language because I'm not using the platform for it. But I think you guys can read the lips if you guys can. He specifically blunt said it. I read it and I heard it. Caught on a hot mic. That's what you pay the guy $60 million for. That's what you get. You Dallas Cowboys fans, you made your bed with him. Now you can go lie in it, just like they can in Cleveland. But solid win for Atlanta to stay at the top of the NFC South. Looks like they're going to probably pull away here soon. I'll get to that, when I talk about the Tampa game coming up. It was actually the game of the day took place in Buffalo with the Bills over the Dolphins. Good back and forth game. Story here is of turnover by Rashad Mostert, which led to the touchdown, was the difference. Tua played very well for Miami in a losing effort, but I'm not one of moral victories. Maybe the storyline here was someone probably got Tyler Bass on the right track because he actually kicked the game-winning 61-yard field goal. Which is something Tyler Bass does a poor job of doing. Tyler Bass bailed out whatever was going on in Buffalo because they were giving up way too many points, which was inexcusable going against a Miami team that was basically starting to check out. Kick a 61-yard field goal to win it. Buffalo pretty much has this division wrapped up largely because the other three teams in the division have between the three of them have basically checked out. So they're probably going to win the AFC East. Question is, can they challenge Kansas for the number 1 seed, which is not likely. They have a big tilt coming up here in a couple of weeks in Buffalo on a Sunday afternoon. Can't think which week it is, week 11 or week 12 or something like that. But they'll be going at it. But I told you guys from the get-go when the season started. We had people who thought Miami and the Jets were going to win the East and challenge Buffalo. I told you guys it wasn't going to happen. Those two collectively are worse than Buffalo. Miami and the Jets put together are worse than Buffalo. Their records show it. Their teams show it. Especially when you consider the Jets are led by a 40-year-old narcissist coward who wasn't put his coward ass on the Pat McAfee show. And we have people in the Jets who are okay with it. You guys are the problem also. That's what you asked for. Go ahead and lie the bid you made. You guys want you some 40-year-old narcissist coward on your roster? Congratulations. But Buffalo's going to wrap up the division here soon, and I can't wait to let the Jets and Dolphins fans have it because I told you guys from the get-go you weren't winning the division. I don't care. I don't care the excuses you guys use. You guys weren't as good as Buffalo because they have the premier quarterback in that division, Josh Allen, a legit top 5 quarterback in the league right now. That was basically all she wrote. Kudos to the Bills. Up in Cleveland, I'll admit I'll eat crow on this one because I thought they would actually start to gather things out a little bit. But the Chargers went in there and just punked the daylights out of the Browns. Even though Myles Garrett had a field day on Justin Herbert getting 3 sacks, the defenses were all over the place. Problem was, again, the Cleveland Browns, like the previous quarterback you had, you try to ride on Jameis Winston's shoulders. You try to say, you guys going to run the table with Jameis Winston? That's who Jameis Winston is. Do you not learn how he was in Tampa Bay the year he had 30 interceptions? That's who Jameis Winston is. You guys didn't get it. We tried telling you, Jameis Winston. This is who Jameis Winston is. You guys made the mistake of letting Baker Mayfield and Joe Flacco walk. Now you guys wanted Jameis Winston to be the backup, and now you wanted him to start. Congratulations. I hope you guys are proud of yourselves. You made that bed. Go lie in it. You got exactly what you deserved yesterday. Justin Herbert had a field day on you guys. The Chargers are going to get that top wild card seed, which is I think it was the 5th seed, the one below the division winners. They're going to cruise into that rather easily. That defense is just lights out. And Justin Herbert, when he's on, he's playing solid ball. Easily a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. Showed it again yesterday. Quentin Johnson had a long touchdown. Of course, Tia Palulu, I can't pronounce this guy's name, 3 sacks of his own, dominant. If you guys had Quentin Johnson or Justin Herbert on your fantasy teams, kudos. I get a lot of people still malign the Chargers for picking Quentin Johnson over Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison, but he does have some potential. He showed it a little bit yesterday when he's utilized right. So kudos to the Chargers. Solid win. Not much to talk about with this one. Is the Titans over the Patriots in overtime. Neither team's going anywhere. Solid win for the Titans. Drake May is still a roller coaster as a rookie. It's going to take some time, New England. Everyone needs to just settle down a little bit, simply because it's going to be a while. He's had his good moments. He's also had his bad moments. The good moments are very good. The bad moments are just very bad. What more can you say? It was an overtime game. Actually, a solid game for bottom feeders. Probably each team going to tank for those higher draft picks here shortly. Tennessee was on a fire sale. They decided, I guess they traded a couple guys not too long ago. Brian Callahan has them competitive. I'll give them that, but they weren't going to win many games this season. This is probably one of the few that they'll win because the schedule after this is a little brutal. Good luck down the line, Tennessee. It's going to be a long road trying to turn it around. New England can say the same thing also. Washington over the Giants. I told all you guys in Chicago, and I will say this again, because you guys in Chicago are illiterate, are are absolutely short-sighted, blind, and can't think straight. I told you guys then, you should have picked Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. You guys over there in Chi-Town use every inexplicable, disgraceful, almost out of control excuse to why you'd rather have Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels. He had the game winning Hail Mary on you guys last week. And he showed it again why he's probably going to be the rookie of the year. You can make a case for him being the offensive player of the year. Might get some MVP votes if he's in the consideration at the end. I understand why he would, either way. But he continues to show why you guys should have picked him over Caleb Williams. I mean, right now Washington is 7-2, largely because of his play. Trust me, I'm saying this because I can speak for experience. I saw him here week 3 in Cincinnati, just dog walk Cincinnati up, down, left, and right. And he's been dog walking a lot of teams ever since. I mean, he got got nice pass, especially when you have a guy like Terry McLaurin on your roster. Excellent. Maybe they could get a number 2 at the trade deadline opposite him to take some pressure. This Washington offense can be a juggernaut. If the defense ever catches up to that offense, look out. They're going to more likely win the NFC East at this rate. Probably get a top 3 seed in the NFC. I don't know if I get the number 1 seed. I think Detroit's going to roll to that one. But Washington is rolling right now. And when I get to the Chicago-Arizona game, I have something to say to you guys in Chi-Town again. Trevor, you're about to get it. Carolina beats New Orleans. Nothing more to say here. They started Bryce Young. The story here is Derek Carr threw a pass at Chris Olave in a dangerous situation that got him knocked out of the game, where Michael Thomas just went on, basically shredded Derek Carr on the X platform, rightfully so. Of course, all this led to the early this morning firing of Dennis Allen, which I thought should have done last season. Now, finally, they could probably hit the reset button, clean all the salary cap books, and start from scratch, which is something they should have done when Drew Brees retired, because they've been in cap hell ever since. Every year I see them on the those cap sites, Spotrac, whatever it's called. They're always like 30 to 40 million under the cap, always having to restructure. They're talking about keeping guys on their roster, not going on a fire sale, which I think is a mistake. Marcus Lattimore out there linked to the Kansas City Chiefs, which I think if they get him opposite Trent McDuffie, good luck trying to score on that. But neither team's going anywhere. Probably finally, the Saints can finally just bottom out, tank, and just hit the reset button and start from scratch, clean out all the books, get rid of all the bad signings you had, and just start over, which is something you should have done with the second Drew Brees and Sean Payton walked away. Now to the late games. The one I wanted to talk about, Arizona over Chicago. I'll get to Chicago here in a second. But for Arizona, speaking of hitting the reset button, Arizona needed to do that a couple years ago. They did it, and look at them now. First place at 5-4. Since the hiring of Jonathan Gannon, they've been a much competitive team. They're not showing the results or the play on the field or the the win column, but they are much better, much competitive. Of course, it helps you have a healthy Kyler Murray who's back. They've won 3 straight. They pounded it down the Bears' defense's throats for the tune of 200 yards. I mean, as I said, Jonathan Gannon starting to implement his fingerprints on this team, and it's starting to show. Great effort all the way around, but they just absolutely just bombarded them. James Conner shows why he's still a solid running back. And Arizona might actually be contending, not just going to contend for a wild card spot. The way the NFC West is right now, they might actually contend for that. I mean, they already had division wins over the Rams and the 49ers, which gives them I would say they did beat Seattle. I'm not sure about that. But they do have already 2-0 in the division, and that already gives them a heads up going into division battles, because that's always a factor when it comes to winning the division. The way they're going, they might actually steal it, because Arizona is playing very solid ball. Nobody really stands out. Of course, they have Marvin Harrison Jr., which has been a subject of weird conversations lately. But kudos to Jonathan Gannon. That Arizona team's headed in the right direction now. They needed to cleanse out a couple years ago. They did. Of course, Kyler Murray missed a big chunk of last season with the knee injury. Came back at the end, played a little better. has come back this season, played very, very good football. Uh, Kudos to the Cardinals. But for the Bears, Caleb Williams showed why you should have never drafted him in the number one yesterday. Also didn't help that DJ Moore walked off on the field on a play. I mean, walked off on a field on a play where Caleb Williams is struggling to find someone. He just apparently walks off the sidelines, and here he is scrambling for his life. I'm not want to label a bust pick for someone who hasn't played much in his rookie year. But when you consider when you consider all the draft capital you had to give up to get this guy, when a Jaden Daniels or maybe even a Drake May was available, you blew it. Someone actually posted an interesting stat. Your offense was better with Justin Fields last season than it was this season with Caleb Williams. Told you guys it wasn't going to happen. Now, I'm not going to say he's a bust, but he's not looking good at the moment. The only reason why they've looked good so far was because their defense and special teams have been solid. But of course, you can think about the play when Stevenson taunted the Washington Commanders fan base on the Hail Mary winner by Jaden Daniels, and it goes over his head in the hands of Noah Brown. That's symbolic of what the Chicago Bears are made of right now. Ryan Poles made his bed to get this guy. Now you got to go lie in it. No other choice. Why? Simply put, you made the investment. You think the guy's going to amount to something? A lot of guys in Chicago said he's already better than Patrick Mahomes or even a guy like Lamar Jackson. Stop. The guy's not even the best quarterback in his own division right now. How the hell is going to be better than anybody else? I mean, he's not even better than Sam Darnold. That's saying a hell of a whole lot. Give it about 2 to 3 years' time. Those same people I told that they should have drafted Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams is going to come back to all these platforms and say, going to be calling for Caleb Williams' head. 3 years from now, I'll be saying I told you so. Just like I did years back when the Deshaun Watson trade at Cleveland happened. I'm just doing the same later. Don't worry, Chicago fans. I kept you in my bookmarks for a reason. I can't wait. It was Philadelphia over Jacksonville. Speaking of bad investments, might be time to put Trevor Lawrence's contract under the bad investment category because it hasn't panned out ever since. He's who he is at this point. Makes you wonder where they're going to go from here because you're tied into this $55 million a year contract and you don't have the results to show for it. You guys were calling for Doug Peterson's head. I don't know what that's going to do. The entire makeup of the roster outside of him right now is just absolutely abysmal. Of course, you traded Cam Robinson to Minnesota, have to swallow some of his salary as a result. But might be time for time for you guys to hit the reset button around him and basically start this thing almost from scratch. Maybe a soft rebuild, if you want to call it that. I don't know if you can fully rebuild on a guy who you paid $55 million to. But for Philadelphia, Barkley and Hurts, solid games. Of course, the Barkley with the reverse hurdle on something you can't do in Madden. Hell of a play. Got called for a fumble that really wasn't. But Devontae Smith with basically you could argue the touchdown catch of the year that basically iced the victory for Philadelphia. They're trying to stay in the NFC East race with Washington, who's just cooking right now. 2 big wins, 2 solid wins for Philadelphia when they punked Cincinnati and they beat Jacksonville. Maybe they can keep it going. Big division tilt against Dallas coming up. Let's see where they go because see what you want. In recent years, Dallas has had Philly's number. Maybe this is the year they turn in their favor. It was Detroit over Green Bay. What can you say about Detroit right now? A lot of people call them the best in the NFL. The team from Kansas City is going to enter the chat here in a second. But I'll give you this. They might be the best team in the NFC. They're just an offensive juggernaut. Now they're talking about defense adding Zadarius Smith from Cleveland, to fill a void from Aiden Hutchinson. But if that happens, it's going to be a case of the rich get richer. I think it would be a good fit. Story here, Kirby Joseph, the pick 6 off Jordan Love. Of course, the hoop block came from early in the game with the hit when Brian Branch whacked the receiver. Can't think which one it is, but knocked him out. Got ejected for it, which I thought it was excessive. Penalty, yes. Ejection, no. A lot of people calling Detroit a dirty team. If you're going to call what they did a dirty team, you might as well call all 32 teams in the NFL dirty teams because What some of the things they do, every team in the NFL does it. So I'm not going to play the dirty card. I haven't seen anything of significance that said they were dirty. You know, toe the line, yes. You know, throw flags, whatever. It's up to your opinion. Dirty, I've seen worse in my time. But for Green Bay, I put Jordan Love in the top 5 quarterbacks. I always stood by it. Might have to back out a little bit because he didn't look all that great yesterday. I mean, he was basically got beat up. Um, it's still going to find a way, I think, to get into the playoffs. Uh, I don't know about winning the division now because I think Detroit's just going to cook. I mean, Dan Campbell hasn't played in the right direction. That two-headed monster of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs is just absolutely lights out right now. I'll admit that. What a two-headed monster to have at running back. I mean, maybe the best in terms of two-headed monster. Maybe Detroit has the best one of all the teams. So good. Big road win for the Lions. On the road. If I'm correct, this is their best ever start in the Super Bowl era. A lot of people penciled them in for the Super Bowl. I wouldn't go that far yet because I still want to see how Jared Goff can perform at that level still. And if Dan Campbell can stop making bonehead fourth head calls like he did in San Francisco in last year's NFC title game, they might just be the NFC representative. I won't go as far as them, winning the Super Bowl yet because there's a lot of work to be done for that regard because that team in Kansas still is going to have something to say about that. It was the Rams over the Seahawks in overtime. Puka Nacua gets ejected for a punch. I mean, the way he's been, that'd be the best thing that happened to him because, for some reason lately, every time he steps on the field, he gets injured. So I guess he took the way out to punch someone. I couldn't see the punch when I first saw it because the replay was out of view. But dang, what a hell of a sucker punch. Cameron Kinchins with the 100-plus yard interception return for a touchdown off of Geno Smith. They go call him out no Smith, like no, because that's what he's become right now. Started off good, sort of flattened out a little bit. I think another year or two might be time for Seattle to consider something at quarterback because Geno Smith isn't it. I try to defend this guy because he had a couple solid years there, and of course, remember him for his years with the Jets. Had a solid resurrection, but this is who he is at this point. Might be time for them to think about a long-term solution to quarterback because he isn't it. But what a game-winning play by Matthew Stafford to DeMarcus Robinson in the end zone. What a pass! What a catch! I mean, the Rams are starting to get going here a little bit. I think they hit the 500 mark. Going to now back to the playoff picture as we now start to for both conferences start to peek into the standings a little bit. The Rams, I think, will probably find a way to get in now. Look bleak with the injuries to Kupp and Nacua, but they're back. Uh, the defense starting to play significantly better. We mentioned the 100-plus yard reception for Kinchins. Rams, I think, are going to wind up making the playoffs. I think Seattle, unless something drastically changes, is going to be in the outside looking in. But the NFC West is becoming a crazy division. All 4 teams fight around 500 and up. I mean, that's what the AFC North was last year. Never thought I would expect that. And of course, the Sunday night tilt was a bit of a snoozer. It was the Vikings over the Colts. Interceptions all over the place. Richardson benched for Joe Flacco. That didn't go well. Not necessarily something a performance that Minnesota was to be known for, but the defense once again is a standout because Brian Flores has put his imprint on it. If you had the Minnesota defense on your fantasy team, congratulations, job well done. Brian Flores continues to put his imprint on that defense. Offense didn't play all that great, solid game for Justin Jefferson. That's nothing much to stand for. Game wasn't much more of a snoozer. Colts trying to battle with the Broncos and the Bengals, among many other teams, for that one of the wild card spots. First of those 3 teams that get to 10 wins probably gets in. Who knows who's going to get it? Because it's still a lot of football left to be played. So that's my recap of yesterday's games. Again, to the winners, happy Victory Monday. Congratulations to you. The Monday night game tonight, I'll touch on it just super quick. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. I tried everything. I've been a supporter of Baker Mayfield this season because I thought for the most part he's just been absolutely sensational. Of course, he had a great connection with his two receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but now they're out of the lineup. And he has a great tight end named Auden, who's pretty sound, but he can only do so much because he now leads the league in interceptions. What happens when you have your top two receivers out, struggling to find guys to throw to? Doesn't help your defense. It's not all that great either. And your offensive line has been pedestrian because they've allowed the eighth most sacks in the league. Going against a Kansas City team who's undefeated at home, and the Steve Spagnuolo defense is probably going to be dialing up blitzes, knowing that Tampa Bay has allowed among the most sacks in the league. They're going to dial it up and get to Baker Mayfield. I'm expecting a win for Kansas. They're going to stay undefeated. And much to the chagrin of the rest of the NFL, who wants to see Kansas fail, I'm sorry. They're 8-0. They have the premier head coach, the premier quarterback, the premier defensive coordinator right now. They're going to be undefeated after tonight. I'll just say that. Now, a brief preview of what's coming up Thursday night. This was going to be a good doozy. It's the rematch of the game of the year, Cincinnati and Baltimore. If you guys saw week 5, what can you say? Everybody showed out. Basically, the biggest winner for all your fantasy teams out there, especially when it comes to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. Congratulations. You were big winners on that day. This game's going to come down to which defense is going to actually tackle better because neither defense learned how to tackle in that week 5 matchup. I mean, missed tackle here. Sam Hubbard had Lamar Jackson for a minute. Lamar finds a way to slip because Sam Hubbard doesn't know how to tackle. A couple of times the Ravens missed tackles on the receivers. Chase slipped out for one. Higgins had a nice catch, made a tackle or miss. It's going to come down to which defense can tackle on this game. Because you're talking about, at least statistically, 2 of the bottom 10 defenses in the league, which with their personnel, they should be better than what they are. That's what it's actually going to come down to. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another shootout because neither defense are all that great, and the weapons on both sides. This is going to be a fantasy dream. Stock on Jamar Chase, stock on Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry. Shoot, even stock on Chase Brown, the running back for the Bengals. Put him out there. You guys will be getting fantasy points because I don't know, because these two offenses, when they go out at Thursday night, have the potential to be a juggernaut. And they basically showed it week 5. I expect the same thing here again. It's basically going to come down to which defense can make the actual stop when it matters most, because neither defense really did. I mean, in overtime, there was a botched snap by Tyler Linderbaum to Jackson, and then Cincinnati inexcusably ran 3 run plays to inexcusably kick a 53-yard game-winning field goal, which was intentionally missed. Derrick Henry comes back for a 50-yarder. Justin Tucker kicks a game winner, and they're walking off Cincinnati. I'll just say this: I like that game and this game. I think both teams had some questions, but I think this time around, both teams are starting to trend upward a little bit, playing significantly better on both sides. This one's going to be a good doozy Thursday night. Of course, the biggest one here is whether or not Cincinnati can exercise the demon of last year, where the quarterback injured his arm, and it got ran out of Baltimore. If for Cincinnati and Baltimore to be in that playoff conversation, this is going to be a must-win for both teams. I think this one's going to come down to the wire again. I expect this game to be every bit the competitive one week 5 was. May the best team win. I'll give my prediction on this one on Wednesday or Thursday, because there's still key pieces who are going to try and play on both sides. Now to a couple of topics that took place over the weekend, and it involves internet trolls, and this has to be brought up. Let's start what happened in Penn State. This was Jason Kelce, the premier center for the former center of the Eagles, slamming a phone of a fan who called him a homophobic slur to him towards his brother. Forget his name, Travis Kelce. Basically, I guess he shoved him, which people questioned about it. There was actual video where he shoved Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce picks up the phone, throws it down on the, just destroys the phone. Congratulations. You revealed yourself as a coward. Jason Kelce, congratulations. You did the world a favor. You gave the coward exactly what he deserved. I am sorry for anyone who thinks otherwise, because you guys have no room to to harass or heckle anyone of that magnitude, especially with the use of homophobic slurs. That is just disgusting and it's terrible. There's no excuse for it. Everybody's saying that Jason Kelce should be charged. No. If there is a charge in this, somebody should be fired because there's nothing. What are you going to charge him with? What are you going to charge him with? The coward got exactly what he deserved, and it was the only thing Jason Kelce didn't do wrong was crush his skull in front of everyone because that coward deserved it. I am sorry, Jason Kelce. You should have done more, but you showed a lot of restraint. Kudos. So you don't have to buy the guy the phone. Make him buy it himself because it's his property. He can file any lawsuit he wants. It's going to be tossed in a minute. Kudos to Jason Kelce. And as far as that coward goes, hopefully we never see his face ever again. Second one. This took place in Philadelphia over the weekend. This was a bit of a more serious matter, and I see a lot of people on these platforms do this, and now I'm going to call it out. This has to do with Joel Embiid and some Philadelphia blogger named Marcus Haynes. Story here is that Marcus Haynes, was criticizing Joel Embiid, which, Joel Embiid gets a lot of criticism as it is. But now he feels a need to drag Joel Embiid's dead father and son in the conversation. Apparently, the tweet was shown to Joel Embiid. They met apparently someplace, and Joel Embiid just threw him down and basically said to his face, "Bring my family into this. You're gonna pay. I'll live with the consequences." NBA apparently is investigating it. Same thing here. Kudos to Joel Embiid. Marcus Haynes, you're a coward for what you said. One thing you never do is bring a man's family into any business, especially when you're trying to be in this sportscasting business in basketball, football, or whatever. Luckily, you didn't get your face pounded in, which I think Joel Embiid should have done. There's no everybody says the guy deserves a second chance. There's no second chance. Once you cross that line, that's all she wrote. It's a wrap. I had a deal. I've seen this many a time with when a man's family gets slandered like that, and men absolutely get trashed like this. Marcus Hayes is getting everything he deserves right now. He's basically a coward who needs to just shut off all of his apps and just evaporate. What kind of man are you to talk about a football player and then bring his family into his business? What does that say? I know Philadelphia media is absolutely guile because I traveled several times to Philadelphia. My boxing is when I covered fights. But let me tell you this: he's lucky. All he got was a shove. I know the NBA is going to investigate it, probably going to offer fine or suspension. But Joel Embiid basically said, "I'll live with the consequences." That's a man sticking up for his family, and that's why Joel Embiid is a man. Because this coward, Marcus Haynes, whatever his name is, the blunt, spineless coward that he is, needs to basically shut his apps off, withdraw from whatever, resign from the position he's doing blogging wise, and just get out. That's just beyond disgusting and disgraceful what he did. So kudos to Jason Kelce, kudos to Joel Embiid. Any internet trolls even think about it, get ready to pay for the consequences. Because I think a trend has been set, and I think everything is going to follow suit after this. Now it takes care of that. Now for my fight followers, because a bunch of my followers are from the boxing, I like to talk about a historical perspective of boxing. Happy 75th birthday to the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. A top 50 fighter all time, arguably a top 5 heavyweight of all time, definitely top 10, whatever you like. Greatest jab in boxing history, or at least one of them with a guy like Lennox Lewis and Muhammad Ali. 7.5 years as a heavyweight champion of the world, 20 successful title defenses. What can you say? No one today is going to come close to what he did. Forget Joe Lewis's 12-year, 25 successful defense mark. No one today is going to come close to his. A lot of reasons for it, but it speaks to the greatness and the dedication Larry Holmes put when he became the heavyweight champion of the world, when he beat Ken Norton in 78, when he beat Ali in 80, beat Jerry Cooney in 81. Basically just clean out the heavyweight division for that time period. Maybe his misfortune was coming at a bad time, was after Ali and before the 90s with guys like Buster Douglas, Evander Holyfield, Bo Lewis, Tua, Mercer Morrison, list goes on and on, because the heavyweight division was in its dry spell. But he beat everybody in his path, successfully defended the title 20 times. That alone stands for something. Definitely a top 5 all-time great heavyweight. Happy 75th birthday to the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. Hope you're doing well out there in Eastern Pennsylvania, Larry. And now I conclude with this. I bring up historical fights for past and now because we have unfulfilling and unhappy and whatever you want to say, fans in the boxing fraternity that I've been in for the longest time. They more focus on, think about belts. They cherry pick who they want to, prop up, cherry pick who they want to tear down. So, I mean, so I talk about historical perspective because none of this took place then. The Mexican Puerto Rican rivalry in boxing is one of the more surreal international rivalries you can have in all the sports. You have them, of course, you have the international ones in soccer, especially with the World Cup, especially the ones they have in Liverpool, Liverpool, Man U, yada yada, over there in the Euro leagues. But in boxing, it's always Mexico versus Puerto Rico. There was something that stood out. One of the best ones that stood out took place 40 years ago in Puerto Rico. Would turn out to be the 1984 fight of the year, the rematch between Edwin Rosario and Jose Luis Ramirez. Edwin Rosario was one of the premier punchers of that time in those weight classes. I mean, he won. Let me back up here for a second. He won they had this is a rematch of a first fight where Rosario won, but Ramirez came on. Ramirez thought he was robbed. They got a rematch. Edwin Rosario, you can make a case, probably one of the 5 hardest punchers that division has ever saw. I mean, if you can pull up the highlight reel, he had the kind of a punch that could basically put you down and out for the count. I mean, he basically down the line he messed up Hector Camacho and put Livingstone Bremo on all fours with a punch through the guard. That was Edwin Rosario. Jose Luis Ramirez was a grit and grind, never nothing flashy, just grit and grind, just the hard way. Nothing flashy, nothing that shows you, just a hard way. Brought in a massive record of 84-4. This is something unheard of at the time. Just kept active, kept busy, waited for his opportunity, and here it was. November 4th, 1984, at the Roberto Clemente Stadium in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I remind you guys of the fight community again, because you bitch about paying for dollars. This was a fight on free TV on NBC. Free TV, NBC, Marv Albert and Freddie Pacheco calling the fight. That was the thing back in the day. This fight was a tale of 2 fights. The first 2 rounds and rounds 3 and 4. Let's start with the first 2 rounds for a second, because it started out with Edwin Rosario looking like his power is going to overwhelm Jose Luis Ramirez. Floors him 3 times in the first 2 rounds. Everything he hits Ramirez with, he hurts him. Ramirez basically a stationary target out of the southpaw stance. Left hooks, looping right hands by Rosario. Ramirez goes down 3 times in 2 rounds. Basically, it's up the equivalent of 20-14 on all 3 judges' scorecards at that point. I mean, he was just dominant. The fans in Puerto Rico were chanting Chapo, Chapo, Chapo. Rosario being Puerto Rican, Ramirez being Mexican. About halfway through, according to the 3rd round, about a little less than halfway through, Rosario has Ramirez pinned on the corner. Looked like he was going to get a stoppage here. A sneaky left hand by Jose Luis Ramirez on Rosario's chin. And now we have another fight here. Now Edwin Rosario was hurt. Edwin was, and from that on, we have a different fight here. Jose Luis Ramirez's confidence grew. And I mean grew. I mean, everything he hit Rosario with, he started to hurt him. He was pushing Rosario back. Rosario was basically defensive for the next couple rounds to where, he didn't know what to do. Ramirez stepped up the aggression, stepped up the punch volume, and then we all of a sudden have a different turn of events here. We're going to fast forward to the end of round 4, because out of nowhere, for a minute, Rosario has Ramirez pinned, swings and masses so badly, Ramirez turns around and just pummels Rosario in the corner. He beats Rosario so bad in that corner to where Rosario just turns his back on Jose Luis Ramirez, and one more punch by Ramirez on Rosario's face with Rosario's back turned to him, and the fight is stopped. Once you turn your back on a fighter, that's all she wrote. That's something nobody knew about Edwin. Once Edwin Rosario turned his back on Jose Luis Ramirez in that corner toward the end of the 4th round, it was basically over. This fight exposed a big flaw here. We consider the fact that maybe Rosario was a front runner. He probably was, because he was a case of being able to win the title but not being able to defend it. If he won the title, made 2 successful defenses, lost it to Ramirez. Got a belt later from Bramble, got demolished by Julio Cesar Chavez, and on and on and on. But Edwin Rosario basically turned out to be a front runner, and this fight basically validated it. He had the fight under control for the first 2 rounds, and when it came to the third round, that was all she wrote. And because that left hand that Ramirez hit Rosario with and sent Rosario reeling, and from that point on, Ramirez's confidence grew, his aggression grew, and Rosario didn't know what to do with him because Ramirez became a locomotive and just went at him. When the fight was stopped, basically no complaints from the Rosario or his team, largely because he had no leg to stand on because he had his back turned to him. But that night, Jose Luis Ramirez accomplished his mission because he fought twice for the lightweight title before losing to Ray Mancini and Alexis Arguello. And finally, in this rematch, he became the lightweight champion of the world. Put himself among the top fighters in the Mexican history. Add a chapter to the Mexican-Puerto Rican rivalry. Did it in Rosario's backyard. Once again, the point is that's how you take care of business in a fighter's backyard. You get out there, you get the knockout, and you don't leave it to the judges. Jose Luis Ramirez did that 40 years ago on free TV on NBC at the Roberto Clemente Stadium in Puerto Rico when he knocked out Edwin Rosario to become the lightweight champion of the world in the champion's backyard. That's how you win a title. He did it. Ramirez was a trial horse. He had a respectable career, matched a record of 102-9. Lost the title to Hector Camacho. Got of course, the gift win over Pernell Whitaker. Lost to Julio Cesar Chavez, and then a rematch with Whitaker, and that was all she wrote for him. But a solid career. Edwin Rosario is a case of probably a guy that should have been more than what he was. He lost the title. Had that fight against Hector Camacho, a chance to regain it. Lost a fight, but basically beat up Camacho in the process. Won the second title from Livingstone Bramble. A year later, gets beat up by Julio Cesar Chavez. It was all she wrote. Did win a title from Anthony Jones in '89, but wasn't the same ever again. Basically, the captivating point is '92 when he got punked by some unknown Japanese fighter named Akinobu Hironaka, and that basically sent him into retirement. But on this night, but 40 years ago, at the Roberto Clemente Stadium on free TV in San Juan, Puerto Rico, the rematch between Edwin Rosario and Jose Luis Ramirez was the fight of the year. 2 fights, basically a 4-round fight, tale of 2 rounds. Rounds 1 and 2 to Rosario, 3 to 4 to Ramirez, but it was rounds 3 and 4 that mattered the most and had Jose Luis Ramirez's hand raised in the end. Boy, do I miss the days where the fights were on free TV on NBC and CBS and ABC. I could save my money on other things. I hope everybody out there in the boxing community can at least appreciate what we had back then. Because we have too many people complaining about what's on pay-per-view, what's all these paid subscriptions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's why I've always liked to talk about fights on free TV because I got a chance to witness it. That's all needs to be said. And this will wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. Also live now on the Rumble platform. If you guys want to check me out on Rumble, go ahead. I have other platforms, not just the X platform, but others as well. Tomorrow, at this time, I will celebrate a 30-year anniversary that took place in Las Vegas. That happened. A historical night. I think I gave away the keyword in that sentence, if you fight followers know what I'm talking about. It was an event like none other. History was made, and I will give that the hour of time it deserves. Until then, I hope everyone out there has themselves a wonderful Monday, November 4th, 2024. Happy Victory Monday to those that celebrate. If you guys are able to vote early, go ahead and vote. Don't hold grudges against people who vote against you because it's an opinion. One side has theirs, the other side has theirs. Can we all just get along? That's what we need more than anything else. But until then, I hope everyone there has themselves a wonderful day. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless and enjoy it.